Great. Promise we're recording, they're watching us, all that fun stuff. Chelsea, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for being here. We so appreciate it, especially our wonderful panelists.
Yes.
With us today, we have Lisa Paz-Furtado, Lisa Grislin, Troy Bambino, and Ed Karzai. Welcome. So if you could, please tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been in the business, and what you're passionate about.
I have been in the business for almost 20 years. And when I started, Lisa Grislin was my mentor. So I was very fortunate and continue to still learn from her. What do I love about this business? I love people, love helping them. It's always a joy delivering the keys, and I'm excited with them, especially our first-time home buyers. And it's just fun dealing with people and helping their dreams come true.
I have been now 40 years in the business, so every time someone asks, I don't want to tell them. but it's true. And like Lisa, my passion actually is helping people. If there's nothing compared to that feeling when you know you've done a good job and you've taken them into their next home, or solve the problem for them, or whatever it has to do, and help them with their goals. So it's I haven't done a lot of traveling. I would like to someday when I grow up, I guess. But really, for now, this is really what I love doing.
Troy Bambino. I've been in real estate 25 years. And I'm passionate about helping people. It really, this is a huge change, the business that we're in, for people, whether it's buyers or sellers. And it's really a difficult thing, right? And we don't give that enough credence. So when you can help someone change their really whole world and make it as smooth as possible, and where they're happy, and they're going to be there the next 20, 30 years, it's a big part of their lives, and it's really rewarding.
Yeah. Ed Karzai, I've been in the business 10 years, and I like everything about real estate. It's challenging, you never stop learning. No transaction and no client is ever the same, and you really see people at their worst and at their best. And it's a very unique business, and it's extremely challenging, and I love it.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. Oh yes, all at once.
True.
All of the emotions.
All the different personalities.
Yeah, of course. We're having a little technical difficulties, so our wonderful Jocelyn's going to help us out here.
Okay, that's all I wanted to do.
All right. So I will just throw a question out, and whoever feels like grabbing it first, go ahead. So what similarities are you seeing in this market, where we are starting to shift into a buyer's market and that transition, compared to other shifted markets you've experienced?
Lisa, go ahead. Oh, it could be either one.
I would say every shift has been quick, and so that's the similarity that I see, is that everybody always wants to know where the top is, and you don't know where the top is until you're down, and it goes fast. So it's quick, and so you've all noticed that the prices changed very abruptly. It wasn't 2% or 1%. It was 10%, right away. And it was that I've seen in 2000 for the .com, 2008 even, which was entirely a different reason, and this one as well. But it's normal economics is what it is. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's good in the long run. We couldn't keep going the way we were.
Yeah, it can't go up and up and up forever, right?
No.
And they're not gradual changes. It happens quickly. And our value in a shifting market like this is educating people, right? Why is this okay for them to sell now when, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, they would have got $500,000 more, right? It depends on their situation and where they're going or what their plan is, where it still can make sense for them.
Yeah, so 2008 was quite an interesting year for all of us. I was actually in New York the day Lehman Brothers closed. So New York has an energy that's unparalleled. If you've ever been, you know. Seeing it halt like that was interesting, and that one was very quick because overnight you saw prices slashed, and then almost, not instantly, but very quickly, we saw the rise of foreclosures. How are you preparing your clients, not necessarily for the wave of foreclosure markets or short sale, but for that almost instant change? Or how did you, I should say, how did you prepare your clients when you saw the 10% change?
I think there's a difference this time.
A big
Absolutely.
difference, yeah. We're not
Because
headed.
at the beginning of the year, we went up 10 to 15%. So all we really lost was what we gained this year,
That's true.
right? And so people like to complain, and it does hurt. No one loves losing it, but if they didn't sell during that time, they just saw it on paper. They didn't experience anything, right? So yes, it hurts, but no, it doesn't hurt that bad if it was something they gained this year and just gave it back.
There was no preparing exactly when it was going to happen, but there was a lot of preparation. We knew it was going to correct. It's been in the news, it's been everywhere that it was going to correct. And the fact that it went up so quickly in the spring was a sure indication that we were going to go south at some point. But it's only when it happens that you can actually explain to people what's happening. I think that I call the first people who listed in June and July, the pioneers.
Yeah.
They were the pioneers.
That's right.
None of us knew. None of us really knew where it was going. We didn't know how fast. Some of us knew it was going to be pretty fast, but how much? The previous market was in their rearview mirror, right there. And they knew that their neighbor 2 months ago sold it for $2 million, and now we're telling them to list it at 1.7 or something. It was difficult, and it was definitely a serious conversation. I think the disadvantage that we had with those pioneers, and for those of us who were trying to study the market, is there was no data. Only gut feeling. There was no data, and we didn't know how the buyers were going to react. So it was not an easy time, and even the most experienced agents could make pricing errors, what looked like errors in hindsight now, because we didn't know where to price it. That's why we had the days on market.
We didn't know what the buyers were
We
going
kind
to
of
do
see the
exactly.
stats. Some time has passed. We can study it. We know where we've been. But those first few people, it was a rough time. We had to do a lot of things.
What do you mean I can't sell for $2 million?
Yeah.
Last week, your sign was here.
Well, the other thing is that for every agent who's experienced, knowledgeable, and also honest, there's the agent who doesn't know what's happening out there, and they use the comps from March, April.
That's right.
And so they're telling the same seller that I can get you $2 million. And they're wrong, and they were wrong. And so they bought these listings that ended up expiring or on the market, and
That's right.
the people are frustrated, and
Right.
it was a disservice all the way through. Those of us who told them the truth, maybe it hurt, but at least we were being honest.
That's right. And the DOMs on the market are now reflecting that. So a lot of those agents who are still listing with those March, April comps, we're seeing those homes still on the market now. There's nothing wrong with the house. They haven't listed it correctly, because if they've listed it correctly with today's market, we should be going pending within 10 days or less.
Maybe as many as 30, maybe. It's just a different market, it's a normal market. So that's the other thing, is don't tell them
Right.
that
Yeah,
that was
that's-
the normal market.
That's right, we
That was
gotta
not the
let them
normal
know that
market,
this
right?
is the normal market, that's
This
right.
is the normal market.
Yep.
And we're still so fortunate because it's still not a buyer's market. We are so fortunate here because homes still sell.
True.
And you have to be careful because there are pockets that are selling very quickly with multiple offers still.
It's the normal market.
For the
It
band.
just seems so slow because we were getting 20 offers per home
Right,
for months and months and months.
every Wednesday.
Yeah. And you can't sustain that. It's going to change.
I have a question on that. I'm just curious if you're seeing anybody that, when it's listed, let's say, less than what they wanted, or they wanted this, but maybe more, are they getting any offers that they're rejecting? Just curious.
Yes.
Any
Yes.
notice of that? Like they're, you're thinking they should think about it, but I'm just curious.
Of course, I mean, you can't control what a seller does and what their goals are, but absolutely, I experienced when my buyers ended up not writing on a home, but that seller wanted $4 million for their home, and well, they're not gonna get it, but it was, they rejected it at 3.8, and they should have all day long taken the 3.8.
Right, and that comes down to the seller's agent, working with them and educating them and letting them know what the
But those
market's
offers
right.
help from the seller side.
For
They
sure.
That's true.
Really do, because,
It warms them up.
the sellers there,
warms
they
them up.
want to
That's
sell.
good.
It's an education, right?
It's part of the
information.
education, that's right.
That's true.
Good point.
Yeah, because then the next person up,
And
and they
they'll
don't
get
get
it.
the 4 million, then all of a sudden they realize, oh,
Yep.
That's right.
so if they need to sell or want to sell, then they start to get reasonable. It's usually the first person in that brings in the reasonable offer that could get rejected.
And it helps when other agents call, yep, we've received offers, they've turned them down. They know, you're not gonna take a real low offer. So there's both sides. That's it.
Just to follow up on that, how are you educating your clients when you sit down with them and have that listing consultation with them to prepare them? We're gonna list here, I know you're expecting to go over, that's not the market we're in. Maybe we might go over, but instead of 20 offers, we'll have 5, 3.
It's a balancing act. I like to be really honest with people, but sometimes if you're not that person who's gonna come in, to use the old comps and to get the listing, right? So it's a balancing act between giving them the information and having enough good news to get the listing too, right? So, but I don't really, I just hit them with what's going on in the market. They don't have to love it or love me for that, but at least I'm giving them, good information. They can make a good decision, right? And then, just having the hard, difficult talks with them. We're gonna be on the market longer. We're not gonna get 20 offers. There were times, yep, just 3 weeks ago, that's what you would have gotten. We're not getting that now, right? And, it's having the difficult conversations and knowing, what is working, right? We've had enough time pass where other homes are selling, and we can give them a good idea of where they should be and have some valuable comparable sales. So now we can make good decisions. For a month or two, we had a lot of trouble with that.
You did. I had a lot of trouble with that. I think that you have to educate yourself, and I think you have to become the expert in the area. I think that if you just tell them, now, some of us have clients that we've worked with for years and years, and we could tell them anything, and they would believe us, because they know that they can trust us. Having said that, you want to have some meat behind your opinions, so you do need to do the research now. Before, you could put $1 on a house, and it'll sell for whatever market value is, because you had enough buyers that would do that. You can make mistakes now, so I stress over the list price. I stress over that because you can make a mistake, and it will be evident quickly. So You still can't make a mistake on the low side, I don't think. We get multiple
Yes.
offers.
Well, and I don't
You know,
even know that.
Maybe you can, because if you only get 2 offers,
Right.
you still might not get it out of one.
That's
offer,
actually
yeah.
one of the strategies.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
I've overpriced some of my
Yeah.
listings because it's what the seller wanted, right? I said, okay, we're gonna test it here, but knowing that if we don't get anything, we're gonna come down. You know, I wouldn't let them go for 2 months at that price,
Sure.
but I would let them, you know, kind of feel the rejection,
All right.
right? And then we make a change. And Vaughn and I were talking, the right change. You have to have an effect when you make a price change, right? Percentage wise, you know, yes, the bigger ones are nicer, but the sellers aren't always gonna do that. But, you know, probably 5%, you know, a good $100,000 price drop.
To get to a different buyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you want to bring in new buyers. You don't want to, if you do a
Right.
smaller price drop, you're not bringing anyone new in, and it's not going to have an effect, and it's not that it makes it worse, but you didn't accomplish anything.
And you know those numbers because you've done the research. So look at those stats, study the stats, see the houses, call the agents with the pendings, understand what's happening in that market. If you're in Lost Valley out here, it's a different market than Sunnyvale or Saratoga or the $1.5 million market versus the $5 million market. They're entirely different. And so you can't bring knowledge from one vicinity or one neighborhood into another neighborhood and think that it rings true, because it won't.
true.
So it's absolutely important to be the expert. And so you need to do it so that you're confident in what you're telling them, and then they'll feel that confidence, and then you're showing them. People like to be proved. You know, it's not everybody will just take your old word for it.
But no, you overpricing too, you're showing them too.
Yeah.
That's right.
You've prepared them, you've told them everything,
Exactly.
all of you've shown them the proof, you've shown them, you know, your
Mhm.
homework,
Right.
and they didn't want to hear it.
Right, because their
And
home
then
is
2 months
better than
later, they're
everyone
like,
else's.
oh, you know what?
Yeah,
I should have listened 2 months ago because he was right,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
which gains trust too. with
It
the
really
client.
does, and you're
You
talking
know,
to
they
them.
respect you, like he was right, I should have listened to him.
But it has to be proven, and it's
Yeah.
a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's their money.
Right, so a little bit of pain for sellers when it's sitting on the market is
A
good.
little
Yeah.
thing for
Little
everyone.
bit, just a little. So we know that we need to be lead generating. How are you changing your lead generation in a shifting market? What tactics are working better for you versus, I mean, last couple of years, we just had to have a pulse and someone would come to you. Now it's a little different. What's changing in your lead generation?
So we were talking about this lead generation, it doesn't change, right? You're still trying to gain that person's trust, and the difference is just being educated. Well, we should always be educated, but knowing what today's market is and letting them know that. But I don't think it changes as far as lead generating with trying to get that person to trust you, so that they'll work with you.
Right, 'cause that's really what you're doing in lead gen, is just getting someone in front of you so that then you can gain their trust, because now you have them as a client. I think that your dialogue changes a little bit. Your dialogue with buyers now, different, right? It's not how much money do you have and how strong is your stomach, and how many times do you want to write offers. It's you know what, you're going to have a little less risk. It's a little more tolerable to the average buyer right now. Yes, the interest rates went up, but the prices went down accordingly. It's not the same situation. It's not the same experience for a buyer. So I think your dialogue changes. It's also, obviously, we've talked about already, the dialogue has changed with sellers. But it's being knowledgeable again. It goes back to that. You are the experts. You have a license. They're looking to you for the answers. And you need to have them. And don't make them up. You'll get caught.
If you don't know, talk to your
Right.
co-agents
Find
in your
out.
office. and find out. That's right.
So I don't know is a perfectly acceptable answer as
Yes.
long as you can provide the data to them
Sure.
at another time.
Exactly. In fact, we will respect you more for that than
Absolutely.
just winging it.
Mhm.
On a hope and prayer that you're right.
Oh.
So when you're pricing a listing in your comp, running through all of the comps, do you ever have that gut feeling like, did I price this right? Did I make 100% sure I studied every single comp? Am I doing the right thing? How many times does it keep you up at night?
Oh, Lisa doesn't sleep.
She's right. So stressed.
But it always works out. It always works out.
But you have that anxiety, because you always want to do the right things. You know, you want to do the right thing for the seller. But it does go back to reviewing, re-reviewing, previewing, looking, driving by, whatever way you can look at these houses, how do they really compare? And take your subjectivity out of it, and try to be objective about what we actually have as a product, and try to stand into the arena of the buyer. The buyers have to see value now. Buyers aren't just happy to get any house, anywhere, as long as they have an address. Now it's a little bit different. They do want to see value. So what kind of value are you handing them?
How about you, Ed?
The question was price?
Do you ever feel when you've comped a listing, you've gone through the data, and do you ever second guess yourself? Did I price this right? Did I give them a correct range?
Of course, second guessing is natural, but like they were saying, you really got to study. You really got to know the numbers over and over and over. The tricky thing about this market is a lot, well, maybe now, but especially June, July, the sold comps didn't mean anything. So you kind of have to just come up with new values on that market. But now you're starting to see, especially the 30-day closes, as to what the reality of the comps are now. But the other thing I want to note, and I'm sure everyone is seeing it, in this market, if a property is a fixer-upper or is not remodeled or has something, buyers are going to ding you all day long on it, okay? And what I've noticed that helped me is my sellers, I give them feedback as to why they're not getting an offer. What is it that the buyers are telling you? Okay, I had a listing in Berryessa, and it was a fixer-upper. And I told them that they like the floor plan, they like the location, they're getting stuck on the fact that this is a fixer-upper. Well, then they would say, well, you know, other homes are fixer-uppers. Well, yeah, but at your price point, they're going and shopping around and seeing that they can get something that's move-in ready, okay? And I go even further to help some of these sellers. I give them a dollar value. You know, your home needs $150,000. That's what it needs on top of the price point. So pricing is very tricky right now. You really have to study, and at the end of the day, I tell them, look, you know, it's probably a little high, but the market will tell you what you're worth. If you don't get an offer, I tell them you don't get an offer in 3 weeks, that's a good indication the market's telling you it's high. And then you probably want to sit down and have an adjustment at that, at least a conversation. Otherwise, nothing's really going to change.
And I'm going through something like that right now. They're actually very good friends of mine. It's like 20 plus years, but it's still a hard conversation.
Always.
A 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom condo in Mountain View, primo location.
Mm-hmm.
So husband just lost his job at Google of 20 years, couldn't get a loan. Keller offers.
What a great plug.
Hallelujah.
Mm-hmm.
Problem solved. We're doing a full remodel, meeting the contractor on Friday.
Yep.
And it's been super easy to navigate. I don't know if anybody's ever used them. It's awesome. So it's an equity-based loan. Money never changes hands of anybody. Nobody has to worry about it. Comes out of escrow. Sight unseen.
Well, you're
And it's their
lucky.
only option.
Well, you're lucky that the clients are willing to do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
See, I've had
They're
that
all for
conversation
it.
with them where, you know, you put in 50,000, you're probably gonna increase
Yeah, you don't realize
150,000.
what 50 equals 150, you
They
know.
don't wanna spend the money, they don't wanna take it off the market, they wanna sell as is, so you're lucky that they wanna do that.
Well, it was a hard conversation, you know, I had to say, you know, it was a property left to her by her dad who died in the unit, but I mean, it's really dilapidated. And I just said, showing them pictures, you know, hey, look, the one sold for 1.4 million last year, but here's the photos.
Yeah, the condition.
Totally remodeled, beautiful inside. You gotta do it. And they said, but this was our only option.
Yeah,
And they were like, thank you, yes, do it, you know?
yeah.
Well, we know it needs to be fully remodeled, we just couldn't find the money to do it.
And that's a credit to you.
Yeah.
That's where your skills really, that's the skills.
I had to
right?
navigate it, it was, one, you have to be totally honest, but you have to do it in such a way that you're not offending and saying, this place is a dump, you know, and it is. But, you know, look at the possibilities here. She's gonna get hit with inheritance tax, you need to get the most for your money here. And yeah, I am lucky that they said, yes, do it.
Yeah, fixer-uppers, I'm sure everyone has seen, they're getting lowballed left and right. And really, it's, I had one in Sunnyvale, 450,000 below the original list price is what we sold, you know, almost 60 days on market, and guess what? To an investor. Because that's all we can get. So.
Troy, you had something to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't worry that much about the pricing because there's a neighborhood price and there's a condition of the home that affects that price. But more than anything, there's a price that's in that owner's head, right? That I want to get to that, because there's times where we're on the same page. Yep, that's fine, it's worth this, and they're okay with it. There's other ones where they're 400,000 too high, and any number I have, they're not gonna be happy with,
Right.
right? And so, you know, digging in, asking the questions about what they think, what does the house need? What value do you see in it? What would you like to do? But what you're really trying to get at is, you know, what are they gonna accept?
Yeah.
Because I've not taken listings because we weren't gonna get them anywhere near the price that they wanted. And, you know, difficult sellers, listings can take up so much of your time that it costs you other business, right? And so when we run across these really difficult clients, I won't take them because I could do 5 other sales
Yep,
with the energy that I would have to give this one.
that's smart.
But that brings up a point in my mind too, and that is, we don't set the price. So remember, we're not the principal,
Yeah.
our client is the principal. So we're the advisor, we're bringing the data. I oftentimes give them a range, or I say, you could list here and be okay, or a more aggressive price might be here. Recently, the one I listed today, they took the aggressive price, and which is a great price for the house. So I'm not losing any sleep on that one at all.
Good.
But it's only been, what, 2 hours on the market already? But it's, so we do take some of the responsibility because we're bringing the data and the information, they're trusting us on that. But it is a cooperative agreement,
For sure.
and it is important to know where their mindset is. I usually know that kind of early on.
And it's nice to let the seller be the one to tell you what price, because then they're like, oh, they, you know, of course they do care of what I want from this sale as well. But listing it and letting them, giving them the choices, but letting them choose always feels better.
Then it's a we, then it's more of a
Team,
teamwork, which is what I promote anyway, is that we are a team.
for sure.
And then you don't take all of the burden if the market disagrees with
Where
what
she said to put that number down.
your
we
price
didn't.
didn't work, yeah.
Told me it can sell for 5 million.
Yeah.
Right.
One thing I do want to add to add on to what they're saying, from my experience, every seller, whether they tell you or not, has a number, right? We know that. Every seller has a number in their head, whether they disclose it or not, as to what they think it's worth or what they want. And I agree with Lisa and Troy, the sooner you can get that out,
Yep.
the sooner you know what you're dealing with.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how far you are from reality or not. So.
In the current market, how are you handling the cost of having listings, right? We're talking staging, we're talking marketing, right? So if you are not sure yet the listing is gonna sell, how realistic the seller is. Do you still do those things for free? Do you get the sellers pay for it? Are you okay with losing listings if seller wants it and they're not getting it covered? Just the whole aspect.
We've taken losses on, paying for staging, and it's just, riding through, when things are up, it's, how many listings can you handle, and money comes fast, but when it's down, our job is still take care of these people, right, and the clients, and there's risks that you're gonna take. If you sell 1 or 2 homes a year or listings, it's hard to take that big loss for staging, but when you're, 50, 60, it's gonna work itself out.
But to be more specific, are you doing anything differently, or you're still free staging, free marketing, you're taking all the risk, and that's pretty much, you're not changing your.
We haven't changed that.
We haven't changed it either, but we do have something in our listing agreement that says if they do not sell, choose not to sell, that they would reimburse the cost of staging.
So do you ask them to pay first, or you pay first and have them reimburse?
We have been just paying first.
We never really had them have to do that.
We've never had to have them, because we also screen them.
Yeah.
And we also are not taking somebody as a client who wants 400,000 more
Right.
than what we
Yeah.
can.
That's right,
Exactly.
So there is an educated guess in there.
for sure.
The market can trick you.
That they're
But if they
realistic.
just change their mind, then we don't want to take the hit on staging. And you don't necessarily have to always stage on every single one. Maybe you can get a buy-in from the seller as to the advantage of staging. A lot of my clients are repeat, all of ours are pretty much repeat clients, and so that we do those kinds of things rather than reducing commissions or anything like that, which they kind of think they should get something special for having bought and sold through us a few times before. Staging is one of those tools that you can use.
And I wonder if anybody looked into Keller offer staging. I think they have staging options, which is kind of like renovation. I've seen it somewhere in the list, haven't looked in depth. Curious if anybody has.
I haven't heard
No.
of staging for it, but it could be
It's
an
one of
added
the categories
service.
of vendors that they have there. So I assume it's there.
Wonderful, thank you.
That's cool.
Okay,
What do you mean by buy-in when you said that?
I don't know, I don't remember the context that I used it. I'm
With
sorry.
staging, sometimes you have them do a buy-in.
Just to participate in it. So maybe the client pays half the staging. Yeah, sorry.
I've had the client
Pay 100%.
pay 100% because they thought that's what they were supposed to do.
Right.
And then you end up doing something else for them, or you know, to compensate that.
what would you say is the best way to convert a lead to a client besides earning their trust and having good data? What do you think is the most successful tactic that you use to have that conversion?
Fear.
Fear.
Big stick.
No. I was at an open house, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, and the place I had listed was at 1.3. Well, there was a guy there who was only qualified for $1 million, right? And I said, this is an incredible time for you. You can buy a home, you're close. You can get a home in this neighborhood with your $1 million, right? And I could tell he was one of those buyers that they couldn't pull the trigger. They couldn't do it. I said, look, if the market heats back up in 3 months, you can't buy a condo. And now you're competing against 15 other offers. Your $1 million is going further than it has in a long time. Jump in there and get yourself a home, because once things heat up, you're not in the single-family home market.
That's true.
So fear.
That's what you meant.
Their fear, not mine. But thanks, Claude.
Watching out for you.
Yeah, less risk for them, right? I mean, we can get contingencies, we can get repairs, you've got an advantage. Buyers have a huge advantage right now.
More specifically, the home, like Lisa was saying earlier, they're not just getting an address, they can get what they need in a
That's
home
right.
Yeah.
Which will make them feel better all in the end,
at a better price.
for sure.
And in 2 years, they can refi to a lower.
Right.
Yeah, the rate is flexible.
Mhm.
That they have more control over long-term, but whether or not they can get into that neighborhood can change.
That's right.
Yes.
It's just not on the subject, but I was always wondering, do you have fun now doing the business or like 8 months ago when it was this crazy market? Like, what market do you like more and why?
8 months ago.
Oh, well, I
Like,
love
whatever,
the
like-
Wednesday to Wednesday market.
Depends on what you have.
Yeah.
If you have buyers, I'll take motivated buyers in this market all day long,
Okay.
okay? When the market was hot, of course, listings,
Listing.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
so it's just, yeah.
That's right.
Depends who you work with.
Always.
I mean, I think you can be successful in any market if you stay true to fundamentals. Because people are always gonna need to buy and sell. Unless this market goes to a point where nobody's buying or selling, then we're in trouble. But, right now, obviously, everybody wants motivated buyers, right? Motivated, pre-approved buyers is really, to me, the quickest way to get a deal done, because there's so much inventory and less competition. Where even a good listing that's priced right, well, you don't know. You don't know if, I mean, it should sell, but you're talking about, I don't know, days on market.
So our average is 30 days on market now. We've finally gone from that 10 days on market to 30 days on market. So there's a 20-day discrepancy. Where's your sweet spot to tell your clients, the market's spoken, your house is overpriced?
For me, 3 weeks,
3 weeks, 21 days.
21 days.
Okay.
It depends on the seller.
Exactly.
It depends on their motivation.
Yeah.
I made a change in less than 2 weeks recently because they needed to sell it. We ended up having to make 2 changes before it sold. But it's sold. And then we did well within a couple days after the second time. But it still only took 30 days altogether.
So it just depends on the seller situation.
What do you say to your clients when they say, well, we want to wait to sell until this, or we want to wait to buy until this?
I evaluate their situation, what the changes they're making. And I've had people where they think it makes sense to wait, and you paint the picture of what's happening now. They can buy and pick the home that they want. And it's a move that, yes, they're selling for less, but they're buying for less and they're getting more on the buy, right? As where if they do it and when the market picks up, yep, they'll sell for more, but now they're competing and they're not gonna get the exact home they want. So yeah, it's a little more difficult to sell, but much nicer on the buy side. Education.
Yeah. And it does have to do with their vision of where they're going. If it's a seller, if they have a place they want to retire to, or a place they want to move to, or they already have the vision for schools or whatnot, then that's a different situation than somebody who really is looking to get the last red cent out of the house. That discussion was very easy in March because we knew there was going to be a correction this year. There was absolutely no question. So then I pushed people. You had to push them, or last year, the end of last year, really pushed people. I think you better do it now. Now we don't exactly know where it's going. I don't think it's going to be drastic, but I think that it could level, or we don't know. It could also change. It could increase, improve. There's not, everything isn't indicating that it's doom and gloom.
A lot of times in our education process, ask them what they think, because they a lot of times think exactly what you're saying, and just give them the opportunity to say it, because then they've accomplished it for you. Okay, let's get going, right? Because they think the market was going to correct. They want to get their money out now, but make them part of the process.
We don't have a crystal ball.
No, but they do.
Right. So we let them use theirs.
It's their crystal ball, yeah, totally.
If we all had a crystal ball, we'd be wealthy and you'd sleep.
That's
What are some of the biggest opportunities that you see in the shifting market?
Buyers?
Buyers,
Buyers
yeah.
for sure right now.
Buyers, it's
Buyers.
definitely, there's some great opportunities out there that are for the buyers. But I think there are for sellers too. I think it's an opportunity for experienced agents to shine. They need us more now than they thought that they needed us before. They may have needed us more than they thought before because they don't understand how to maneuver through multiple offers and how to get the most money and how to position it right and stage it right and all the things that go into it. But they also saw sign to sign, active sign to pending sign was 1 week. So they didn't think they needed us all that much, but they need us now. They need us now and our expertise. So it's a time to shine. So for those people who are professional, who intend to stay in and remain in the business, present themselves that way, it's the time for us. And the other people who were in it for the short term because of the windfall or whatever else they were doing, they're going to be weeded out. And that's not bad for our industry, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at the numbers at the associations of how many agents there were last year, you can see, so for Santa Cruz at least, I'll use them, our height was 1,600. We're already down to 1,300. So that is already starting, and we're seeing that. I think also one of the things that the opportunities for agents is to learn different markets, and this is kind of segueing into my next question for you. How did you prepare yourself, or how did you learn how to navigate the sales process of, let's say, a foreclosure, an REO, or a short sale? Not saying that that wave is coming, but we are starting to see that pick up slightly. What advice would you give to agents here or your younger self in how to navigate that process?
That was the school of hard knocks.
Yes, that's what I was gonna
Not
say.
so, not so short
Just
sales.
dive in,
Yeah.
there's no other way.
It's,
You don't know what's gonna happen, just ride with the wave.
you ride with it.
And hours on the phone with the banks.
Oh,
You gotta jump in,
Painful.
It did.
right?
It was
Awful.
painful.
It was painful. I didn't like it. I worked foreclosures in the 90s when we had a downturn in the market in the 90s, and was very active working with foreclosures. We had several banks that we worked with. I hated it, literally hated it. So some of those same banks, and I had other opportunities when we had that again in 08, and I didn't do it. I thought I would go do anything else other than work on foreclosed properties.
I
again.
gave them away. It wasn't something that I excelled in and had time for, and so, but there were, people needed help, and if you didn't know what you're doing, you didn't make the situation any better.
Right.
So there were people who, that's what they specialized in.
They did, and some of them did a really good job, especially the short sales. They knew the ins and
Right,
outs.
ins and the outs, and they were set up for it.
They were set up for it. They had staff, they had people on the phones all day, every day.
That's what it
We did
takes.
short sales because there was no way to avoid them. Just didn't like them.
One thing I quickly want to mention on your last question, opportunities, so buyers, right, obviously, but also the contingent buyers they have all the opportunity now, buyers or sellers who are trying to buy at the same time, right? In a seller's market, there's no seller with multiple offers that was gonna consider something like that. So now it's very realistic to get an offer accepted that's contingent upon selling the buyer's home. Now, you probably have to be on the market to sell it to that seller, but it's much more realistic now than it was, in a seller's market. Contingent offers.
What are you saying to your buyers, well, your sellers who are your buyers with the contingent sale? to prepare them for that process? Maybe they've never sold to buy before, they bought their first house, now they're selling. How are you preparing them with this current market?
The buyers?
The
buyer who's
client,
selling?
Yes, the seller who's also buying.
Okay, so how do I prepare them in this market? Well, I tell them that they have a much better chance of getting their offer accepted, but what I tell those kind of buyers is, it doesn't matter the market, if your home is not at least, this is my lingo, if it's not at least on the market, it's hard to get the seller to accept it, because they're gonna be like, well, how do I know how long it's gonna be on the market? How long is it gonna take for it to be on the market, you know? And, you know, the contingency is what, 17 days, I think, the way
By
it's written, by default,
Yeah.
right? To get the home into contract or whatever. So, long story short, I tell my buyers who are selling at the same time that, okay, you gotta have your home at least on the market to really hold a lot of weight on your offer. Because then the seller sees, okay, they're on the market. So they're serious and they're not just talking, and God knows how long it would take if they weren't on the market.
Anything to add?
The seller has to see that that other home is more marketable than theirs. If I have the buyer trying to buy something contingent upon sale of their own residence, they may give up some negotiating power on their buy side to give incentive to that seller to work with them on this big contingency. It's a big contingency in a 30-day plus market. I would prepare that buyer to price their residence very well, to pretty much try to beat the odds and sell it in less than that 30-day average, so that you, in that 17 or whatever contingencies you have, and prepare a package for that listing agent of the buy side, so that they know that you've done your homework and that you're listed this aggressively.
Yeah.
Give them the comps and show them the house, invite them to see the house, whatever it takes in that respect, so that you have a nice package going to try to get that contingency through. It's still not really easy to get contingency through, because the seller's like, well, either I wait for my buyer or I have to wait for their buyer. So if I'm gonna wait, I might as well just wait here. So you have to give them some kind of incentive to do that.
And what are you saying to your sellers in any situation where they choose a higher price point? Where, so maybe you give them a range between, you can sell for 1.7 to 1.725. You have a $25,000 range there. I know that's not a huge range. But what are you saying when they're pushing for the absolute maximum? Are you building in anything that says, if we don't have anything in 2 weeks, we have to automatically drop this price? In your listing agreement, that's what you write in?
I haven't had to yet.
Okay.
But I used to.
It depends on the sellers and their need. If they've got to sell and they still want to go high, it'll be a quick change. But there's other ones, I can go with them, right? I had one guy, he just was 97. There's no real rush, right? And
No, not at all.
I tried saying, well, you know, this money's going to your kids. What do you care if you get this price? But he cares, right? And so I would just wait out with him.
Oh, yeah, what are you gonna say?
Exactly, right.
You're gonna beat him up?
No, not at all. But usually there's a need though, and they need something at a certain time, right? They've got to be sold by.
And that's our job. Right.
So I've heard all of you talk about the seller's needs and the buyer's needs too. What is the quickest way you find out their needs? Obviously asking them, we're gonna say, what do you need from it? Do you have any method that you use that's tried and true for your business that you find more successful than others?
I had a couple, went to their house. The husband was just beating me up on commission, on staging, on everything under the sun. And I stopped and I said, you know, I'm not a discount agent. And I go, you want to sell and buy and your wife's 8 months pregnant, right? I go, I can do this for you. And I'm not discounting, and right, and this is how we're gonna do it. And I go, are you ready to sign the listing agreement? And the wife said, yes, we are. And she goes, no discount, no, you stop talking and let's go, right? Because she didn't want to have him bring in an unqualified agent, and she had enough going on, right? She wasn't gonna take his, you get to it by listening to what they're saying, and does it add up? Does it make sense? And I actually, it was terrible, but I started my response to the guy saying, maybe I should just leave because I'm not that discount agent. And that's when I got the wife's attention, and where she was like, I don't want you to screw this up. So it was, I don't do that often, but in this case, he was pretty tough.
So you find the weak point.
Well, I'm there to help them, right? And if they want to be mean, or they want, it's, we don't have to.
Right. And being there to remind them of what their ultimate goal is,
Yeah.
which is, we need to get this done before this baby's born, we need to get settled. So reminding them, because they could get into it all and start
Absolutely.
thinking numbers.
Yeah.
And you have to help them refocus. Remember what your ultimate goal is. So we have to move forward. And that reminds them.
And I
Like
do-
Lisa was saying, or I was gonna say, you're saying about how it's a team, and you can't really be on a team when someone's gonna fight you all the way.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a great team.
Yeah, we're together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to getting their bottom line, I never really want to know their bottom line. I don't, because human nature will take you there. And so if our goal is to sell at our list price or better, I don't want to know that they're going to take 50,000 less, because then somebody says, well, would they do this? And then, how do you
it
keep that
already.
inside?
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't want to know their bottom line. But, so I don't ask those questions of what exactly will you take? I don't. In fact, sometimes I'll say, I don't want to know. But what do you need to get you to your next stop? What is going to make this happen for you to complete that other purchase, to travel the world, whatever it is that your goals
And there are times they don't know, because until the contract's in front of them,
Right.
they may not know what they will take, right?
That's a good point.
Yes.
So another question, what do you see as a potential role of creative financing in a shifting market? Here's an example, right? Somebody 90-year-old, they want this price. Well, you would have this price if you do a seller financing, for example, or something like this, right? So just curious, are you using any creative financing tools in your toolbox right now? Or do you see others?
No, because it hasn't been that difficult. Like I said, even though we dropped in price, we've only dropped the amount that we went up in the spring, right? So no one's really underwater or deep hardship. There are times when that's called for, but haven't gotten there yet.
No. And I wouldn't suggest it, especially for a 97-year-old.
Right.
There's a risk involved,
Yeah.
but there's risk involved to everyone. When you're carrying a second, you're the secondary lender. So remember, if they don't make payments on the first, the only way to save your money is keep everything current.
All those issues.
Yeah, so we don't want to put people at an unnecessary risk. And yes, interest rates went up, but they're low, but they're still low. And so
But if they keep going up,
they'd have to go up pretty high. I mean, yeah, we did secondary financing when interest rates were 12%. But I hardly did them. I hardly did secondary financing with sellers.
that's the big question mark to me, is, rates have such a, look at it. As soon as the rates went up, okay, demand went down. It's just tied at the hip. So, and, the government has a lot to say, the central bank has a lot, so I don't know. I mean, right now, rates are these are normal rates. 3%, 2% this is the consequence of low rates.
Right.
Is these silly prices, These are normal rates, but if they go into this, in my opinion, if they get into the 7s and 8s, people may stop buying.
I don't think so. I think
Consumer
people will
confidence,
People will just adjust to it. I've been through markets where interest rates were literally 18%. So.
but
and
these
people
buyers
bought
are not
it.
used to that.
No,
so-
no, they're not used to it, but eventually it becomes normality. It's not, we're not talking about today's buyer, we're talking about over time.
Yeah,
And, yeah, it stalls at a little bit in certain price ranges.
yeah.
But there are price ranges right now that are flying in a week. I have a $5 million buyer, and he was looking at a house and it sold in 1 week, 5.195. They're all going like that, so he was hoping that he was gonna see a decrease, or he was gonna see a little room for negotiation, but there isn't.
Yeah.
in that. So people with money still have money.
And that's discretionary money. That's,
Uh-huh.
all their money isn't tied
When
up
it's
in
at
that
price
house.
range, yeah, it's true. Right, it's your 2 million down, especially, that really has seen a difference because of the interest rate. But all they're really doing is buying the same house.
Yeah.
They just don't realize it because they're paying the same mortgage. The house has come down almost the same as their buying power, their loss of buying power.
Would you guys agree that most of the time, 50% of the buying market are first-time buyers, give or take?
The price point, I think, is the issue.
In general, not the $4 or $5 million buyers.
Yeah.
Those are
I don't know
different.
the stats
I'm
on
talking,
that.
2 million and
Right.
under. Statistics show a lot of them are first-time buyers, 50%.
2 million and under, I would agree
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
under two.
Yeah.
But Sunnyvale, Cupertino,
Yeah.
a lot of those are, the second.
I wish we all sold in.
We're
know,
not
up there.
exactly
Yeah,
realistic.
I'm trying to get neutral.
I just saw a recent NAR stat literally this week. It's the average, it's 30% average nationwide. That's the first time buyers.
30%?
30%.
Lower
And
than
it
I
has
thought.
gone down over years from something
Affordability is
35 or whatever.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
30% national.
National.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have the locals.
California's kind of a funky
I
market.
would
You
say
know,
so.
being the fifth largest economy in the world, we'll do that to you.
Yeah, right.
So how are you talking to your clients when they hear everything on the news, in the media, Facebook, they're getting their news from who knows where? We'll use July, for example. I think it was July. It came out, inflation was at 9%, a big jump from where everyone anticipated it to be. How are you dealing with that when talking to buyers, when speaking with sellers? How is that coming into your conversation? Or is it coming into the conversation?
I think general economy does come into the conversation. I think we also discussed the fact that we are our island here, our own little island, especially in the Northern California Bay Area. And there are a lot of factors that haven't played into recession, and that's employment. We don't have a lot of unemployment here, so people are still gainfully employed, those who want to work. So it's definitely having an effect. I'm not an economist, so I don't get into a lot of detail. I joke about the media and how the media will take and run with something and just take it till it's dead, and that it's not always accurate. Sometimes it's behind the times, sometimes they're just projecting. So I do have a discussion about being careful with what you read.
It's a challenge for me personally, because you've got people, you're dealing with what they hear on the news, what they read, their cousin Billy, their Uncle Bob. Everyone's an expert, and it's a challenge. It's a challenge.
TikTok,
and-
Instagram,
Yeah,
social
TikTok,
media.
their neighbor, oh God, their neighbor.
The neighbor.
Find that
Oh my
neighbor.
God.
If I can find that neighbor, my neighbor told me this, my neighbor told me that. How dare you list it for that price, right? Yeah, the neighbor's pumping them, that your house is worth, whatever, when it's really not. So it's a challenge, and like they were saying, it all comes down to your education skills, just being able to give them the facts in a way where you don't offend them.
Yeah.
And I always go back to the market. I go, the market is gonna dictate what happens as a listing agent, you know, the market. I don't say me because then you're the bad guy. But it's a challenge. It's a challenge because they get their information from everywhere.
Remind them again of what their ultimate goal is and
Yeah.
why they're doing what they're doing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and keep them
That's what
focused,
you gotta keep bringing them back to that.
for sure.
So the past couple of years, we've really seen a rise in iBuyer programs. Zillow, Open Door, buying your house sight unseen. Have you come across that in your business, having to compete with that? And how do you overcome to earn their trust and assure them that they're going to sell for more than what they're offered through the program?
And before the market changed, all my value was in the negotiations, right? Because you can stick a sign in the yard and go 300,000 over, right? But you can also go 800,000 over, right? And do you want to leave that in the hands of a
Robot.
discount agent, right? But in this market, you know, it's kind of the same thing. It's a little bit different. It's more frustrating. My whole shift has been from negotiating and multiple offers to babysitting sellers. And I don't really mean babysitting, but it's, you know, you're updating them constantly. If they don't hear from you, they're not gonna use you or give you a good review or tell, you know, they're not gonna stay sane. They wanna know, you know, that you're there, what's going on with their house, how many disclosures have been downloaded, how many people are, you know, looking at the house, staying in touch, a lot of hand-holding. And I guess it's what they want their experience to be, because if they're gonna go with a discount agent, they're not gonna get that sort of stuff, and they're not, you know, when I do get other offers that my seller's not gonna accept, I let them know how that's gonna benefit us. Now, when other agents call, I'm able to tell them, yeah, we've received offers, we've, you know, turned them down, and it puts them in a stronger position. I sold one last weekend where we received this terrible offer, all kinds of contingencies, all kinds of questions about the termite report and the cracked foundation, and the other inspector didn't mention this, and, you know, just this huge headache, right? And then we got an offer from a family that they loved the house, right? And it was a really good offer, price-wise, zero contingencies. And my seller wanted me to go back and try and get more money from the bad offer. And I said, no. I'll tell you why.
Why?
Because if they were $50,000 higher than this really good offer that has zero contingencies and no issues at all, and a big smile and a love letter that never existed, maybe it did. This offer is going to cost you more. They're going to drill us and ask for price, you know, not price, you know, compensation, and create all kinds of problems. And in this market, we've been here for a month and a half, right? So if you want me to, I will, but I'm advising against it. She goes, no, you're exactly right. Thank you. Let's just take this, and good karma, everybody's happy, win-win. So
I think the boots on the ground kind of agent is what the sellers need now. I think that's what we advise them. That's how we sell ourselves. These things that are out there that have never been to the area and they just throw it on MLS. They might have worked for a while. It's not what people need now. I actually am calling it also the kind of the market of more. So when it comes to our agents, what are we doing? We're doing more research, more knowledge, more previewing, knowing our market, more communication. So it's more communication with our seller, like you said. we're constantly telling them what's happening, what's going on, who's looking, what they're saying, how many disclosure packages, what's going on there. We're talking with agents. What does your buyer think? Getting feedback from them. There's more communication. You need more of all of those things. You need more expertise. You do need more negotiating skills now. Before it was fun, because then it was funny money and
Then it
we
was
could
more
play
offers.
one against
Now
another.
it's more.
Now it's
More work.
it's more work.
That's a
More
lot of
work,
work.
another more. So see, the more comes up. But more negotiating skills. You know, Lisa and I talked about this. It went back years ago. We always had this adage that you never let an offer die in your hands. We're back to that. You just don't let an offer die in your hands. Yeah, it's a low offer. Yeah, you just wish the guy would go away, but counter it. Do something, get it out of your hands, let it die there, but don't let anything die in your hands because you never know.
Yep.
You never know. So remember that.
That's a great point, Lisa. I personally, in this market, I personally had an offer where it was low, you know, I don't know, 200,000. And the seller, you know, too low, but I kept the communication with that buyer's agent. Because you never know, and guess what?
They came back.
They came back, they were there, letting the seller do their thing, and the seller finally came around to it, because that was all they got.
Right.
And
Never-
if I didn't keep the communication, like Lisa said, it probably wouldn't have sold.
Yep.
So that's actually a very good point.
Never want to be the one to let it fall right there.
Right.
Always get it back over the net.
That's it. That's it. Let them
That's
kill
right.
it if it has to kill.
Last couple of years, we saw a market of excess and craziness. What is one of the more lighter but funnier items that you had seen in one of your offers that you received on behalf of the seller? A year of Netflix, free pizza, movie cost.
Something funny that we've seen,
Funny,
an offer?
interesting, quirky.
whether we were on either side, right?
Sure.
Representing buyer.
Do you have anything funny?
I do. I had one, it was 4 or 5 years ago before the letters were taboo. But it was really cute. The buyer's agent, who I actually went to junior high with, decades ago. The letter came in, or the offer, came in and it had a cover letter, and it was a picture of the buyer, woman, with her cat and a gardening hoe and like a Stanford sweatshirt or something on, right? And so I had like 7 or 8 offers, and the lady was selling it for her aunt who had passed away. And we had this stack of offers, and the offer with the lady was like in 4th place, right? And so I let the agent know where they were at and that she really wanted to get it and increased like 80,000, right? And it moved them up. And so the seller, she goes, I'm not taking this offer, and I won't be taking this one, and I won't be taking this one. But she went to the 4th place offer and took this. And
Cat
she said,
lady.
we'll be taking this. My aunt was a teacher, a Stanford graduate, loved cats, and loved to garden, right? So it just, weird things happen. She goes, my aunt will haunt me if I don't take this one. So it's cute.
That's cute. That's nice.
Yeah, that reminds me of a story. It wasn't my transaction, what Troy just said. I still can't believe this. It was another agent who used to be in San Diego, and he transferred. He lives here now. He had a transaction. I believe it was his buyer, and the buyer asked for the seller's dog to be included in the offer. I still can't believe the story.
Oh my
I thought he was BSing me. He goes, no. And at first he didn't want to present the offer. Right, the dog.
The dog, the family dog.
And so,
I could understand a bird.
so then the guy said, okay, I'm gonna give him X more, you know? And he finally presented it, he was like, he was apologizing to the listing agent beforehand, and, you know, I gotta do my, you know, my duty here, I'm so sorry. The seller agreed to it. I think they had to sweeten a little bit more, he agreed to it. You want the dog, have it.
Oh, my
Yeah, I can't believe that.
So everything really does have a
Cute.
price.
Yeah, I would not recommend that.
Wow.
It's already hard enough to try and emotionally detach someone from their home, but a
Yeah.
dog?
I know.
Pretty
Yeah.
personal, yeah.
Yeah. I can see the doghouse, but
Yeah, right.
what are you saying to clients and how are you phrasing it when you're talking to them and they bring up, this house has been on the market for 45 days, what's wrong with it? Or it just had a price reduction, what's wrong with it?
Our buyer?
Yes, buyers.
Oh, yeah, that comes up all the time now because they're not used to that. Say, we're in a normal market.
Yeah.
They just didn't price it according to where the market was. So this is really lucky for you.
Yeah.
Easy, schmeezy, they love it.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple, yeah.
Would you like to go back to the days where there's already 10 offers in
And if 200 over?
Yeah, 200.
Well.
Right.
Depends where they are.
Question,
900
hey, this
over.
property's been on the market for 5 days, what's wrong with it?
Right?
True.
It made it to the offer deadline date? What's wrong with
Right.
it? Yeah, the days will come back. They'll come back.
Yeah, take advantage of the opportunity.
For
Yeah,
sure.
right.
So we had talked, it was mentioned that disclosures have been downloaded, how many of them. What's your favorite tool to use for a disclosure packet to put into the MLS or a property website?
Disclosures item.
Homeline.
Homeline?
So we use.
Troy?
I have people for that. I don't know.
Can you call your people, get them on the panel, please?
Go ahead.
We had people for short sales, you had people for disclosures.
Troy doesn't even know about disclosure.
No. Oh, my gosh.
But, you know, for me, it's whatever our, you know, our TCs in the office use, which I think is Disclosures IO. And before it was something else, I don't know what it was. Yeah. They all work.
They all
They all
look the
work,
same.
yeah.
It's used a lot now, so agents are having no trouble with it.
Yeah.
But when we first started using it, remember, they didn't know how to do it.
Right.
We couldn't upload all
It was
of
painful.
It was.
How did you manage and how do you manage your stress level and have that work-life counterbalance?
That's not for me.
Yeah, you should ask my wife that question. It's tough. It's always a challenge, especially, like, you know, for me, I love what I do. This doesn't even feel like work to me. It's natural. And then that takes you into lots of hours and family time. And I think it also depends on your where you are, you know, if you have family, this and that. This is a great business for people who are single, right? You agree?
Yeah.
You can work all day long, yeah, 24 hours a day. Yeah, but you just gotta make time, you gotta make time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you gotta make time.
Having a solid partner on the other side is super helpful.
Someone who understands.
Absolutely. Especially with a family, you need to have that.
Do you ever have times where you shut everything off, you're like, I can't do anymore, I'm done for 24 hours?
24 whole hours? Maybe 8. No, I've never done it yet.
I guess it's not gotten that bad to have 24 hours.
There are times where like just everything's going wrong and I'll get to a point where I'm overstressed, so I don't answer questions pleasantly or whatever the case may be. Now I have to finish up what I'm doing, but once I get to that safe zone after offers or this and that, it's best for everyone if I just shut up.
So
you know,
your
turn
team
off.
tells you to turn off.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Your people.
My
His people.
yeah. Troy, go away.
How are you managing client expectations now? What's different from 2 years ago, a year ago, 6 months ago?
It's all client expectations now,
Mhm.
right?
Never changes.
Before it was how much over and now it's how much under, but
Yeah.
it's two different.
The communication still has to be there and
Yeah.
even more so, like you said.
I think even more. Yeah, I think it's just a lot of communication and hand holding. You have to empathize for what they're going through. If they go 4 days and not one agent has seen their home, or the open house has 3 people.
Oh,
You know, you just have to take a deep breath. You have to be the calm one and the sane one. And you have to explain to them that this is how the market is right now. These are the conditions. Hopefully you prepared them ahead. But it's communicating that and being real about it.
you know, there's also getting ahead of these things helps too. Like Lisa said, you know, having an open house where 3 people come through, right? I have, you know, sellers who I want an open house both days. And I'm like, I'm not gonna do that to you because we're only getting 12 people through. And now it'll be 6 and 6 if I have 2 open houses. So, you know, we want it to be crowded or as crowded as possible, but it doesn't help you or anyone else if we've got 1 person every hour coming through, right? So you've got to know like what they want, but what's really good for them. And it's, you know, whether it's price changes, open houses, you know, whatever the case may be, what can we do that, you know, is most effective for them? And they don't always want to hear it, but I have sellers who, you know, Troy, you always change the way I look at it because you're right. I don't, they've asked me for 6-hour open houses. And I say, okay, we're going to have 50 people through, but now we just made it 10 an hour rather than 20 an hour, right? And we're not accomplishing what you want to accomplish.
That's a
So.
funny story. I'm on this Facebook page for Palo Alto. So I grew up in Menlo Park, but Palo Alto's 5 minutes away. And this guy put a picture of a plate of tacos and said, this is for cheapskates like me that go to open houses.
There you go.
And he said that open house was packed with people and probably 1 person made an offer. 1 person was a real serious, you know, buyer. And I said, well, and he's like, I didn't realize this was a thing. I go, oh yeah, free tacos, that's a thing. And I didn't mean that I did it, but this guy responded and said, can I have your business card? Because I need to sell my mom's house in Palo Alto on Addison. And I'm like, oh my God.
And we will
Absolutely,
be
like
happy.
millions, okay? I'm like, yeah, here's my card, call me. And another guy said, I might be calling you too. Like, I guess free tacos is gonna be a thing from now on, because he said it was packed. And they must have put something on their sign saying free tacos. And that, I mean, as ridiculous as that is.
Well, we would do twilight tours in the evening for taco, right? But it was for the neighbors, it wasn't really for the buyers. Because neighbors want to come through and look at the house anyway, but it was really effective. And the tacos were great.
I kind of was laughing it off and like a joke, but he took it as, I offer free tacos, which if I sell his mom's house, they're gonna have all the tacos they want. But how ridiculous and crazy is that? That I might get this listing in Palo Alto, Addison, I mean, that's big bucks.
So the question was managing expectations?
Yes, how do you manage your
Well,
clients'
I always
expectations?
enjoy the conversations where Zillow is saying that their home is worth $300,000 more than what it really is. I really enjoy that. As a matter of fact, I really had one 3 years ago, beginning of 2019, a home in Santa Clara. For whatever reason, Zillow, on a good day, it was worth 1.1. On a good day, and Zillow was saying it was 1.4. She had already counted her money at 1.4. And so, that was a very tough conversation. Luckily, she was motivated, and it sold for $1,080,000 after 30 days on market in 2019. And you know, that's tough because, to be honest with you, I think she thought I was a bad guy, and it affected our relationship, and she still has resentment towards me. So, you know, it's just what we deal with.
And at that point, do you feel that it's worth trying to nurture that relationship and get it to where it was? Or are you just saying, okay, send her her holiday card and call it a
You
day?
know, I was super, I gave her a nice gift, I took her out to a nice dinner, and I visited her, because I helped her buy another place too. You know, I asked her for a review, you know, she said, oh, you know, she still brought up that stuff, and she goes, I'm not ready to give you a good review. And that's when I said, okay, yeah, what more can you do? You know, I mean, so you just kind of have to let it be. It's a learning experience.
Absolutely. When you're working with buyers, are you encouraging new build or new construction for them?
Depends on the buyer.
First-time home buyer, let's say.
I don't go out of my way to recommend it. If they bring it up, then we have that conversation, for me.
I think it's our job to make sure they know everything that's available to them. Even if it's not 100% to our advantage, I think it's still our responsibility. There's pros and cons to new build, so they need to know what those are.
Does anyone have any questions for our panelists?
Do you have some in the chat?
Yeah, I'll get to the chat. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm a new agent, so do you guys have any tips for like generating first-time leads and kind of creating like a cycle?
Good question.
Well, as a new agent, definitely touching your sphere, right?
Database is important.
Database is important, letting everybody know what you're doing. And staying educated and knowing what's going on so that you can share that with them.
Right. A lot of times the first transactions come from, we call them DNA transactions because that's people close to you. So a lot of times that's where your first transactions come from. So, but open houses too. All of my first transactions came from open houses because it's the personal connect. You have a nice soft way about you, so I think a nice personal connect is good. And then, you know, there's people that are highly successful in door knocking and picking a neighborhood. If it's your own neighborhood, it can be an advantage to you because you know it already. Just getting yourself out there, don't be a secret agent.
Get in front of people. Get in front of people.
That's right.
There was a saying that I liked. It was, the space shuttle uses up 90% of its fuel just getting out of the atmosphere. Right? That's you. You're, you know, everything's new to you. You've got a lot to learn. Put the work in, have some fun, and get in front of people.
Yeah, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's already been done for you, which is so great. So you just gotta dive in.
Do you think buyers are more cautious right now, more picky? Before they were going with their eyes closed and no contingency, and right now they'll be like, oh no, I want this, I don't like this, or how do you?
It's just about the opportunities they have. If they had to be that way with multiple offers, because if they didn't, they went to the bottom of the stack if they didn't get thrown out, right?
Yeah.
So it's the environment that they're in. They have the opportunity to do that now, right? And it's less risky for them, and but they're less motivated. Maybe their fears are greater because they have that opportunity, as where with a faster market they just didn't either jump in or, you know, get run over.
And they have to see the value. So you have to prove the value. they always know that another one's gonna come up. Before, you could wait weeks until another property might come up and the price would be much higher. So now they're saying, oh, 3 came up this week, they're not quite right, so we'll wait till next week. So it's just all about value. And then so from the listing standpoint, that's what you're creating, because you know those buyers want to see value.
I was gonna say, I come from a lending background, and so from the pre-qualification of buyers, is I'm noticing the people that I talk to, they are pickier, like you're saying, and even though, and I really, from my end of it, I really try to be a real advocate on your side of it, to say, look, this is a window of opportunity, you know, because a lot of them were in that situation with a lower rate, but where they couldn't compete because of, it's like, you've got this window of opportunity, you need to seize it when it's here and not worry, like, is it gonna go down 100 or whatever, right? This is the market where it is right now, because we, like you said, when it turns, and they saw it, you know, it turns. And normally too, I tell them, if you like it, chances are, even though there's more, but chances are if you like it, it's meeting somebody else's needs too. So I can just say, I from the loan side, I really try to advocate that, but, and also when you're saying about education, to try to educate yourself on, like, that there aren't a lot of foreclosures, even though, yeah, there might be more. There's not a lot of foreclosures and inventory. There might be more inventory, but it's not excessive inventory. So that's why the market could turn very quickly and rates could drop. I mean, they've kind of settled. So I think that's another thing, is that what I'm noticing with the buyers is that I work with is that they've settled into the fact that the rates aren't going back to 2.875 or 3. So the reality is the reality. And then if they're renting, right, they're trying to, ultimately it's the goal. So let's just work on that. So I just, yeah, but they are, I'm noticing that they're talking pickier, and I'm trying to say, hey, you know, you're lucky that you can maybe have a contingency or not have to pay over, and don't try to get the whole thing, you know.
Timing the market.
Yeah.
That's what my experience is, buyers, and sellers, they're looking for the perfect time to get in.
Yeah.
So then you have the conversation of, there's no such thing as a perfect market. Well, what if prices go down? Okay, but you could be looking at higher rates.
What if prices go up?
More buyers.
Right.
Or,
And it's
yeah, exactly.
It's a long-term investment. It's not a short-term investment. So you can absorb those changes in the market if you have at least a 5-year.
What makes a transaction a win for you?
Happy seller.
Happy buyer.
Buyer.
Accomplishing their goals, making sure that you've helped them reach them. So that they're satisfied.
Well, even sometimes if they're not, but you did what you could or the right things for them. We manage expectations, but I've had people who, you know, I did a great job for and they weren't thrilled, and the other people you do a good job for and they're thrilled. And so it's just taking, you know, they put a lot of trust in us and taking good care of us.
And I think also knowing that the other agent and their clients are happy as well. Yeah, I kind of like it when everybody's just really happy. That's really, those are my best transactions. We're in one now, Lisa and I, with an agent that's really cooperative with the seller, a little weak, but it's worked out. It's worked out because everybody was on the same team.
For me, it's when the client shows that they appreciate you. I think most of us are hardworking, honest, you know, agents that are trying to do the best we can for our buyer, seller, given a very complex business. And you've got all these, you know, you're dealing with your client, the other client, agent, lender, et cetera, et cetera. It's never perfect, but when your client, just whatever, it's just, you know, even if it's subtle, they just show it. To me, it's just everything. You know, they're not looking at me as just another person. You know, they value me a little bit, because I always look out for my client's best interest, like all good agents do. That doesn't mean it's always good, right? But when they show appreciation, to me, just even if I didn't sell the listing and they showed that, it just makes me feel really good.
Knowing everything that you know now about real estate, systems and models and building and client interactions and legalities, technicalities, what advice would you give yourself when you first got into the business? Besides find a good stress relief and that you won't sleep.
I think that I would, if it was me, I'm watching, looking back in history and all, is a little bit more balance. You really do need time to step away a little bit. I love what I do and I love my clients to a fault. And I realize and recognize that, but I'm in a pattern now and it's hard for me to get out of that pattern, right? It's been just a struggle. I think it's also understanding the people for who they are. Everybody has a story, and I think that's been always what's kept me in the business this long is the person. The transaction is fabulous. I'm very good practically that way, but what I really like is that personal connection and to really spend more time thinking about them and their story and who they are. I have clients that I've known for 40 years. I have clients whose children and grandchildren have purchased homes with me now. Think about that longevity, and it's that's the thing that I take away now looking back is to savor that even more, and knowing that you're really touching the lives of so many people. You're making a difference, and it is sales if you want to look at it that way, but to me it's not. To me, it's just I'm part of their families. We're getting them to their goals, whatever they are, and you're involved with them in so many different ways. It could be happy things, marriages and life changes and things like that. It could also be death, and it can be divorces, things that are really hard. You can make a difference with them then too. So I think savoring that position that you have, and I didn't learn that probably for 10 years into the business. But savoring that position that you have to make a difference in people's lives and understand the power that you have there is something that I wish I had known right from the start.
You know, that's exactly what my dad said to me when I first got my license. I'm third generation Cunningham, that's in real estate. And he said, if you're gonna go into this business, you have to understand that it's about the people. If you're going into it solely for the money, don't do it. That's not the purpose. It's to help people getting into their homes. Everybody has a story. You know, it's exactly what you just said. That warms my heart. That's exactly what my dad told me when I first started out. That if you're in it for the money, you're in it for all the wrong reasons. That will come. But you're there to help people get in the excitement of their first home. And you know, I sold homes that they were inviting my dad and I over for dinner. They were all excited once they were moved in. I mean, but that's part of it, right? That's the whole excitement, and that's what you're there for.
Right.
That's what we do, right? It's helping people, bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else, there's procedures, there's the money, I mean, that's all there, but it's helping them. And I think that, you know, that was the best advice he could have ever given me. I mean, it's just stayed with me.
Yeah, that makes it, it makes it more than just a career.
Yeah.
It makes it part of your life, which is why it's hard to step
It's
out.
more
sometimes.
rewarding, right? I mean,
Yeah. Practically,
you feel
have
good
to
at the end of
know,
the day.
you have to know transactional skills.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And all of the other parts.
That's
to it.
all in
So
place,
you have to
right?
know all that.
Yes.
It's just, if you have this other side to you,
Yeah.
it's, I think you'll make a difference in a little bit.
Well, I think having a psychology degree helps a lot too. I find myself being a psychologist more than a realtor.
I have a psychology degree too. You do?
No, I don't.
No, I do.
I feel like I do now.
Oh, yeah,
I know.
When you first started, you know, we kind of get everything thrown at us. This training, go to this for coaching, do this, learn this method. What was your favorite method of learning sales tactics tactics of learning how to have those conversations with people. The hard conversations, books that you read, speakers that you see.
Well, having Lisa as my mentor was fantastic. Watching her in the action was definitely a treat and continues to be so.
I think also watching other people and learning from that. I think that is part of it. Some of it isn't innate. It's the way you were brought up. It's the way you learn. I do have a psychology degree. Okay, fine, but it's really more of yeah. I think watching how other people handle situations.
Yeah.
Panels.
Diving in with your mentor and just diving in and getting a transaction done. I know a lot of people, when they start, they want to become educated and go to all the classes, and that's so important. But you really start learning once you're in it. So don't be afraid to start. Don't be afraid to, I'll start working with people once I complete 10 classes or 20. Do it simultaneously, but once you dive in, the sooner the better. Don't just wait. You're never going to feel like you're ready, so just dive in.
And you can practice at open houses. So we always tell people that we mentor people on our teams or whatnot, you can't really make a mistake. I mean, you're not going to do anything outlandish, right? But you can't make a mistake because they're not your client to start with. So practice your scripts, practice things, see what works. But be sincere to yourself and be real about the way you present it. Don't memorize scripts because they will sound like a script. People won't take it sincerely. And then, so if it didn't work and people walked out and you didn't get their name, so be it. It's okay. That's a perfect place to train yourself.
The rejection is what we learn from, right? And it's hard to go through, but this is such an amazing career that we're in. It affords time and money, and my days fly by. It just, there's not enough time in the day.
Sure.
But if you look at, rejection or the experiences we go through, it's a learning curve. You're learning from each one of those, and you're changing and tailoring what you say and how you say it, and it's making you better. So when, you get to that place where people start choosing you and they want to work with you, you built yourself to went through education, through rejection, through, failure. But, the classes and the seminars, but ultimately you have to get in front of people.
Yeah.
That's
and get past your fear
Yeah.
of being in front of people.
and we're all afraid. We're all
afraid.
Yeah.
Ed, anything from you?
What was the question again? I'm serious.
What's your kind of favorite, or what was your favorite or preferred method of how to learn how to navigate through real estate with your clients, the bumps in the road, getting in front of people? Did you go to seminars, coaching, books, mentorship? What worked for you?
Yeah, I think what the panel is saying, I think the quickest way to learn this business is just jump in the deep end. It really is. So what if you get rejected? Rejection is actually normal. You get a bunch of no's. That's normal before you get a yes. And then find what you're good at. So jumping in, like for me, it was door knocking. That's how I started. For other people, it's cold calling, it's open houses, etc. Through trial and error, so door knocking really honed in my scripts and dialogues. It just, I learned the objections, I learned the lingo. It's the same stuff over and over. Once you learn the objections, it's the same, really right? It's the same thing. And you master it, and you can, but you're not gonna learn it from a book like you do in real life. So you really, so if you really want to accelerate your learning curve, just go out and do it. Do anything, do something. Do something.
To the people.
Yeah, do something.
Don't sit.
As a matter of fact, I gotta tell the story.
Uh-oh.
My very first year, I door knocked your house, if you remember.
My house.
Your house. She opened the door and she was good. She let me give my lingo.
Oh my
You
God, I
know?
don't remember.
And she was like, oh, by the way, I'm a realtor. I felt so embarrassed.
Oh my gosh, and I'm embarrassed, I don't remember.
No. Dude, this was like 10 years ago. Like literally it was my first year in the business. And Blossom Valley, right?
Yeah, Thousand Oaks
Thousand
neighborhood.
Oaks neighborhood. And, but you were very gracious after, and I wasn't with Keller Williams yet at the time, but
Well, that's nice.
we exchanged business cards. We exchanged business cards, but,
What'd you ever do with that card?
firewood.
She hasn't needed a realtor yet.
Yeah.
She put it on the wall through a dark.
Before the days of Nextdoor, where she could
Yeah.
say, this person's coming around.
So just do
That
it.
is funny.
Just do it.
What are you currently reading? This was a total surprise question for everyone, but what are you reading that you think others would enjoy?
The Red Book.
Good answer.
MREA.
Good answer. Great
I
answer.
love that book. If you want to learn this business, read the Red Book, the MREA. Oh, like 10 times. Because the first time is going to be really high. It's a high level book.
Mhm.
It's probably written at a master's level, but if you keep reading it, and then you apply it in real person, it all makes sense. I think it's the best real estate. I've read a bunch of different, to me, it's the best real estate book written.
I agree.
Because it's extremely thorough. Yeah.
By far.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it has to be broken up into little pieces.
Yeah. And read many times. And every time, like, even if you read it a 30th time, you learn something new. Gary did a good job.
Gary did a wonderful day. You're, I mean, gold star for you.
Smart guy.
He's quite a guy.
Lisa, anything besides contracts?
I am not currently reading a book, although I'm buying 3 books, but I'm not gonna share with you what they are because I'm leaving for Ottawa. And it has nothing to do with real estate.
Good for you.
Yeah, mine's for pleasure.
Wonderful. Does anyone have any questions?
I'd like to know what you guys' thoughts are for the next, let's say, the next 6 months. I know nobody has a crystal ball, but you guys have experience and you're out there and you're feeling it. With the world as it is, there's a lot of uncertainty. So what are your thoughts on the market in the next 6 months?
People are always gonna have a need. Right now, the majority of my clients are ones that there's something bearing down on them why they have to sell, right? They retired and they're buying a house and they need the money to get it out. They think the economy is gonna get worse, right? And they wanna get out what they can, but on the other hand, they could wait 2 years and the market comes back and it's up here, right? So people aren't selling out of, everything's great, let's make a change. It's, there's a negative consequence staring them in the face. And so a lot of what I'll do is, it's really what they think. They're gonna sell because they're worried about the economy. They think it's gonna get worse, right? It's not so much what I think. They're taking an action because of what they think.
No one can predict. We never can predict because we'll be wrong every single time. Because the minute it's out of your mouth, it's wrong. But it's probably gonna be more of the same, or, I don't expect drastic changes unless something drastic happens that we're unaware of right now. But you're right, it's all about what they perceive. And if there's a need to sell, and there always is, there's fewer sales transactions than there were. It's clearly, but there will be fewer agents. So it's still gonna be fine. I think we're all gonna be fine and we're all good. You just have to prepare. prepare yourself more. It's not easy. People who think it's easy are going to be out of business. Clear and simple.
My last question, I promise. At what point in your business did everything really just align and click for you and you said, okay, my systems are in model, my systems are good, my models are good, everything's going good, here we go. And you really were assured that this was the right business for you?
Has it happened yet? We'll let you know when we get there.
We'll have you back on the panel.
Talking about real estate nirvana, yeah, I agree. I think to Troy's point, yeah, you get to a point where, you know, you see things working, but it's never gonna be just, you're never gonna reach perfection.
We said, that was the first thing we spoke about.
Yeah.
What are you doing and what, you know, how does this work? And
Yeah, oh, I think you never stop learning.
That's right, be ready for changes, there's always changes.
Big learning base, you know, we have a class on that,
Right.
1 or 2 of them.
I'm going to vision boarding tonight.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you, Troy.
All right. I don't have any further questions. Does anyone in the Zoom room have anything or in this room have anything for our wonderful panelists?
Maybe I have one.
Okay.
Okay, after a successful transaction, do you give
Tequila.
I like it.
Do you give your clients something or give them as a thank you gift without going over your budget?
Yeah, but a lot of our clients, they're leaving the area. They're retiring Arizona, Oregon. So we'll send out like a 1 year, you know, afterwards. But I think we send some, we have people for this. Dave and I put everything in place, you know. But not too overboard. The real gift is the millions that they get for selling. And I mean, this year there's 3 people that won $1 million over asking, right? Along with 20 other ones that were 800,000 over. So tequila really is the answer.
Tequila. It's funny, my dad asked me this, it makes me laugh. He goes, do your clients ever, when you do such a good job, do they give you a bonus? My dad asked me this. Are you kidding me? I'm just looking for a thank you, Ed. You did a good job.
5-star review.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm gonna call her today again if she wants to get.
Yeah, right.
So, I do, especially on the buyer side. I give them some kind of whatever gift basket, some kind of housewarming gift, and I include a personal card. I always include it. If you do nothing and you just send them a personal card, you're good.
Yeah.
But I include a personal card with a gift and keep it simple. It could be a gift basket, it could be a gift card. Yeah. People do set of knives engraved with their name or something. I mean, I'm not good at that stuff.
No one is.
Yeah, I'm not that creative, but I would give something, because if anything, it makes you stand out. And they'll come back and remember that. That's the, to me, it's the non-transactional part of the business.
I once gave a barbecue to a vegan.
Yeah,
that was.
Yeah, we're not.
Did it really read
Wasn't
through
well
it?
done.
He'll remember you.
Yeah.
Probably has your picture on it.
Yeah, and their name engraved.
I think it goes back to also knowing your client too. You know,
Yeah,
they
sure.
have children. Can you get the children something after
Yes.
this? So,
Yeah.
Making it personal.
Making it personal.
During that whole transaction, you're gonna find out something that they want or something that you will remember, oh, I think they would like this because I found out this about them. So that's really cool, making it special and personalized for them,
Especially for the buyers.
for sure.
Fun to gift to buyers.
Yeah, because it's kind of like a housewarming
Mhm.
kind of thing
Sure.
where sellers are kind of, like
They're
Troy
gone.
said, moving out and stuff.
That's
But
right.
you really want to win over a client for life, buy something for their kids.
Yeah.
Or their pets.
Or their dog.
Yeah, or their pets,
Or
but
their pet.
especially their kids. You buy,
Mhm.
you're gold. Your gold, I'm serious, your gold, you buy something for their kids, they will never forget it.
Trump says the parents will remember you.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
All right, well, thank you everyone so much. We appreciate your expertise. So we have a couple of minutes. We are going to be having lunch. Do you know if they're here or they're setting up? We're ready. Okay, all right, well, thank you.